Chapter 81. After waiting a few minutes, King Gazel finally arrived with Dorf in tow. He took the seat directly across from me, while Dorf quietly positioned himself behind his king. The moment Gazel sat down, he didn't even bother with greetings. "What were you thinking pulling that ridiculous stunt?" I blinked innocently. Stunt. I tilted my head just slightly. "What stunt?" Gazel's eye twitched, a clear sign I had only irritated him further. "First of all," he began, visibly restraining the urge to slam his hand on the table, "you let Vesta publicly announce his research that any normal nation would hide under layers of restrictions." My sweet, innocent smile wavered just a little. "Okay, me. Just say it was a diplomatic strategy. Political transparency. Scientific pride. Something smart. Anything smart." And then Ren opened her mouth. "If I may," she said, bowing with perfect grace. Gazel nodded, granting her permission. Ren continued, voice perfectly calm and respectful. "I believe my lady was far too busy playing to read Sir Vesta's report closely. I am certain she learned of its content at the same time you did. I felt my entire soul leave my body. Game over. 0 HP remaining." She bowed again, stepping back as if she hadn't just publicly executed me. I turned ever so slightly, just enough to glare at her traitor, but before I could say anything, Gazel's voice pierced my heart with the force of a divine slime crusher. "What?" He stared at me as though I were some mysterious creature from beyond the stars. "A ruler who doesn't even know what her people are doing. UGHH. His shock hit me harder than Hinata's disintegration. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, sighing deeply. A very disappointed sigh. I don't even know where to begin lecturing you. Critical hit. Super effective. Rimuru has fainted." As my spirit hovered somewhere above the dining table, the partition curtain shifted. Chan entered gracefully, radiating her usual gentle beauty, and right behind her walked Archduke Errol, dignified and composed. Perfect timing. Or terrible timing. Yes, perfectly terrible timing. "Thank you very much for inviting me, Demon Lord Rimuru." Chan's voice was perfectly polite. Too polite. I straightened my back like a guilty student summoned by the principal. I responded with equal formality, desperately trying to sound composed. "It is an honor to have dinner with you, Emperor Elmesia." She sat gracefully beside me, between me and Gazel, with the elegance of a woman who knew exactly how intimidating she was. Then, with a serene smile that felt like a guillotine blade. "It was quite a tournament." Her voice dripped sarcasm so thick even the noise dampeners couldn't filter it. I was quite surprised. Gazel sighed at that, massaging his temples like he pitied her for having to deal with me too. I offered my sweetest queenly smile, masking pure survival instincts. "I am happy to hear that you enjoyed it." "Shameless. Yes. Determined to live. Also yes." Chan pouted. "You really are shameless, Rim-Yukai. Formalities. Deleted. Buried." She sighed deeply, as though reminiscing about a long history of Rimuru-induced migraines. "I thought nothing could surprise me anymore after you casually recruited those primals, but that tournament changed my mind." I crossed my arms and puffed my cheeks slightly. "I'm not that bad, Chan." Chan raised a brow. Gazel choked on his drink. Before I could say anything, the duo of Ren and Errol sprang into motion with identical urgency. "My lady, you cannot address the Emperor like that." Ren's voice trembled in panic, hands folded but visibly tense. On the other side, Errol straightened abruptly, almost snapping to attention. "Why, Your Excellency, please refrain from addressing Lady Rimuru so informally." Chan let out a long, resigned sigh. "It's fine. This is a casual meeting. Our nations are on friendly terms, after all." Errol scowled, jaw tightening at her relaxed tone, but he couldn't openly contradict his own emperor. I nodded lightly at Chan's words, but Ren was, unfortunately, not done. Her brows knit with the determination of someone defending the last bastion of propriety. "Even so, even in a casual setting, proper etiquette should be observed. Addressing the sovereign of another nation with a nickname is highly inappropriate." Errol nodded along with a sagely expression, clearly grateful for backup. I raised a hand, dismissing their concern with a soft sigh. "Come now, Ren, we can ignore little details like that." My tone remained graceful, serene, queenly, but relaxed. "Formalities aren't necessary when no one here minds." Ren's expression didn't budge. If anything, she looked more distressed, as if the very laws of the world were unraveling around her. Ren stepped forward again, her voice low but urgent, as though she were warning me about an approaching calamity. "My lady, even if you or the Emperor do not mind, it is still a problem." She spoke with the gravity of someone explaining a diplomatic crisis, hands clasped so tightly they trembled. Think of what others will see. A ruler of a newly established nation addressing the sovereign of a major power so casually. They will view you as arrogant ruler, someone who does not even know basic etiquette. Harold nodded in agreement, matching her intensity perfectly. They were completely in sync now, like two hyper-disciplined soldiers defending the sanctity of protocol. Indeed, no matter how strong Tempest is, it is still a newly founded nation. If we allow the ruler of such a nation to address our emperor so casually, our reputation will be negatively affected. Ren nodded sharply, as if delivering the final blow. Even Gazel crossed his arms and hummed in agreement, giving Ren's argument a rare, solemn nod. The entire room seemed to tilt toward their shared conviction. El-chan tapped her finger on the table, voice dripping with mock disappointment. Era, you speak of etiquette so passionately, yet the two of you speak to your rulers like that. Ren and Harold froze. El-chan sighed dramatically, shaking her head as though mourning the fall of civilization. Does the term hypocrisy mean nothing to you? Imagine how embarrassing it must be for a ruler to be scolded by their own attendants. She brought a hand to her forehead. What pitiful leaders we are. I nodded immediately and leaned into the act, expression refined yet theatrically wounded. Indeed, that's certainly too much. I wonder what people will think of me. I sighed with the perfect level of disappointment, queenly, elegant, and completely fake. Harold scowled, jaw twitching, but his shoulders slumped in defeat. Victory. Mentally, I punched the air. Take that, Ren. Ren let out a tiny, defeated sigh. Gazel just rubbed his forehead, as if this was all some joke. Then Ren mumbled, pouting just the tiniest bit barely noticeable unless you knew her. I will tell Lady Seal how you were bullying me. My entire soul froze. I looked at her slowly. You wouldn't. Ren looked away, chin up, cheeks puffed ever so slightly. Humph. I'm doomed. As I clutched my head full crisis mode, imagining Seal interrogating me with quiet, terrifying gentleness, El-chan perked up again, completely ignoring my existential collapse. Right, I wanted to ask about something. That maid of yours, Seal, was it? My crisis paused. Wait, no, this might be an even bigger crisis. El-chan continued, eyes gleaming with curiosity. She seemed like a very skilled fighter. Not to mention she directly asked to marry. Before she could finish that sentence, Gazel suddenly cut in, turning his sharp gaze toward Ren instead of me. There is no way that was something done on a whim, was it? I stared at him. Why Ren? Why not me? I am literally right here. Rude. Then I remembered the Vesta situation, how even I didn't know about the research he was doing. Okay, maybe my track record was not helping me. Or maybe this was one of those gossip world logic things, where the maids know everything and the rulers know nothing. Yes, let me cling to that for the sake of my pride. Ren's eyes subtly shifted toward me, a silent, perfectly made like, my lady, you should answer that. I straightened my posture, lifted my chin with practiced grace, and coughed lightly, pure royalty clearing her throat. Then, with a calm, elegant smile, I addressed Gazel directly. I was aware of that. Gazel raised a brow. I continued before anyone could question it. I have already accepted Seal as my wife-to-be. Harold inhaled sharply. Ren didn't move, but her eyes sparkled with smug, I knew you would say it, my lady pride. El-chan froze in surprise. I kept going, voice serene and composed. However, suddenly declaring such a thing without preparation could cause dissatisfaction among some of my subordinates. To eliminate that conflict before it arises, I allowed Seal to participate in the tournament. I folded my hands elegantly on the table. By winning in front of everyone, she proved herself more than worthy of standing beside me. That way, no one could question our relationship or think that Seal is undeserving. The table went silent. Gazel stared at me like he wasn't sure whether he should scold me, worry about me, or both. Harold looked shell-shocked. Rimuru Kai. El-chan exhaled heavily, rubbing her temples. That was quite a bold move. Even Gazel nodded with the solemn gravity of a man attending a funeral. I responded with the most immaculate, utterly queenly but still shy smile. It's nothing like that. Shameless. Absolutely. Convincing. Not even slightly. El-chan and Gazel sighed in perfect synchronization, long-suffering, resigned, and absolutely done with my nonsense. Gazel rubbed his forehead tiredly, then squinted at me. Do you think she can win? I didn't even hesitate. Definitely. Absolute confidence. They both noticed. El-chan raised a brow. Really, Rimuru Kai? Her tone held intrigue beneath the disbelief. Even if we ignore Hiro Masayuki, there are still other challengers. People even my spies couldn't identify. She looked straight at me, eyes sharp, silently demanding. Explain, who are these people? And then, panic. Immediate, unavoidable, complete. Gazel turned to stare at me as well. Two rulers, two pairs of eyes, one very cornered slime. I looked away, elegantly, gracefully, but also very obviously avoiding the question. Quote. All I can say, I began carefully, is that they're my guests. L-chan and Gazel both waited. I coughed, then continued. They will leave as soon as the festival is over. You don't need to worry about them. Gazel stared at me with the deadpanness of a man who had seen too much. L-chan sighed like a weary schoolteacher dealing with a problem child. Very well. She leaned back. I'll trust you. It took a few more seconds, but eventually Gazel sighed as well, letting it go. Finally eating. For the first time that evening, the tension began to melt. The conversation shifted into calmer waters. Elmisia praising each dish with genuine delight. Gazel nodding along while trying to hide he was secretly enjoying everything. We spoke about normal things. Vesta's research, Tempest's food innovations, L-chan's growing interest in Tempest cuisine. Gazel commenting on the future of Tempest and economic growth. The whole table relaxed with casual chatter. As we enjoyed the meal peaceful, at last someone suddenly burst toward our table in a fluster of panic. Molly, panting, sweating, eyes wide, he hurried up to my side, bowed deeply, and whispered with the urgency of a man whose life was about to end. Lady Rimuru, we have a problem. I blinked. Problem? What kind? Molly flicked his gaze to Gazel, then to L-chan, then back at me. One of those problems. We should discuss privately, but it's already too late, so please save me, kind. But Gazel and L-chan were friends. Trusted allies. So I waved my hand leisurely. Don't worry, sit. He sat stiffly, like a man being escorted to his own execution. Directly opposite L-chan, I took a sip of tea, composed. Tell me. Seeing that I truly didn't mind the two listening, Molly finally exhaled and spoke. Here's the thing, we're out of money. Silence. L-chan paused mid-sip. Gazel froze with a fork halfway to his mouth. I stared at Molly for a whole, quiet second. Quote. Come again. So he explained. According to him, a ridiculous number of tradesmen suddenly demanded payment all at once. He'd been running circles dealing with them, but out of money. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Molly, we seized lots of assets from Clayman's castle, and not to mention Diablo seized 1,500 stellars from Farmus. If we dipped into that, we could run 100 festivals, each one more extravagant than this, and still have change to spare. How are we broke? Molly swallowed dryly. About that. He adjusted his glasses with trembling fingers. It's not an issue of budget, Lady Rimuru. Of course it wasn't. It's never that simple. It's that we can't convert Clayman's assets into usable currency. I frowned. Quote. What? Clayman's treasure hoard, almost all of it is in ancient gold coins. They're valuable, yes, but they aren't in circulation. They hold artistic and historical worth, and they are used in the Eastern Empire, but... He trailed off miserably. But while they might be used over there, Molly continued, they aren't recognized as legal tender here in the West. I stared at him. Of course they weren't, because why would anything ever be simple? The tradesmen could convert them, he added quickly, but this apparently wasn't to their liking. They only wanted real gold coinage, the kind minted in the Dwarven Kingdom. Molly gulped and pushed on. So I began paying them in regular Dwarven gold coins at first, but partway through I realized something had gone wrong. He wilted. But by then, it was too late. The classic Tempest financial disaster arc. Once our vault ran dry of normal Dwarven gold coins, Molly, bless his merchant soul, started dipping into his own personal fortune to keep the festival running. Then that ran thin, so he consulted some trusted merchant friends. And that is when it became stupid. Because apparently, according to his network, the new, unfamiliar traders the shopkeepers had recently started dealing with were demanding only common currency. No bartering, no credit, no IOUs, cash or nothing. I pinched the bridge of my nose. In international trade, it was considered reasonable to make pure barter trades, one side's goods canceling out the cost of the other side's. They could also enact IOUs, contracts to handle payment later instead of exchanging cash on site. Payment would be needed sometime, just not right at that moment. One common custom to cover monetary losses in this world, where the concept of charging interest was still in its infancy. However, our nation hadn't built the trust to back up that custom yet. If our partners demanded cash, our only option was to pay them in cash. Molly understood this well enough. That was why he so carefully managed our budget for this festival, meticulously selecting the merchants he worked with. He was apparently counting on more large-scale trade with a smaller number of partners, which would allow him to break down the stellars in our vault and use the resulting gold coins to pay out our other debts. Someone engineered this with harmful intent, that much is clear. They want to undermine our standing. We could attempt to compensate them with a gold bar, but that would only encourage them to treat us lightly. That is not an option. So I turned to him. Gazel, I need help converting our stellar gold coins into common dwarven currency. I'd prefer not to flood your economy, but... He raised a hand. I anticipated the request. Oh, thank goodness. If I ask my men to assemble all our current surplus coinage, he said carefully, we can provide at most 1,500 gold coins. I truly cannot extract more without disturbing our own circulation. I nodded. That's actually far more than I expected. Thank you, Gazel, and, sorry for pulling you into this. HMPH. We're allies, he said, looking away with a gruff dignity. And this incident reeks of calculated sabotage. I won't stand by and watch someone toy with my junior's nation. Then he added, I'll have the coinage sent tomorrow morning via heavenly transport. You should receive it by evening. Relief washed through me. Thank you, truly. Your help means a lot. Gazel nodded once, firmly as a king helping another ruler. It still leaves the main question to discuss. Will this be enough to pay off your merchants? L. Chan interjected. Well, it was close, very close, but still not enough. The Founders' Festival was a massive undertaking, and we were sparing no expense in launching it properly. Because of that, we needed far more gold coins than originally budgeted, over 3,000 in total. We could count my personal stash of roughly 300, plus the 800-ish Molly managed to gather together. That put us at around 1,100. Even when adding in the amount Gazel had promised, we still fell short of the needed 3,000. Not enough. Based on the numbers I'm running in my head, we'll still be a few hundred short. Gazel gave me a withering look. That's the accounting you used to run this entire festival. I'm amazed you ever managed to get it off the ground. Yeah, I kinda made things up as we went along. We didn't have much time to set it all up, so what else could I do? Gazel let out a long, theatrical sigh, shoulders slumping, eyes full of despair. I mean, we were all really into it, you know. Nobody said no to me, right? But if I actually told Gazel any of that, he would absolutely explode. A sober king could be surprisingly scary, and I was intelligent enough not to test my luck when he was in that mood. In that case, perhaps I could make up the difference. L. Chan spoke with the air of someone who had been patiently waiting for her cue. My head shot up. Really? I asked, unable to hide the hope in my voice. Yes, Elmesia replied with effortless grace. In return for my support, I ask for only one thing. Whenever you host a festival as magnificent as this, I want you to invite me. If you promise to include me in your future celebrations, I will gladly help resolve this little financial imbalance. Honestly, Rimuru, I would hate to miss such a delightful event. I giggled softly. Don't worry, L. Chan. Next time, I'll personally come pick you up. I handed her a small box. And these are cookies I made with Seal a while ago. You'll definitely like them. L. Chan accepted the box with sparkling eyes and immediately opened it to take a bite. Harold quietly tilted his head back toward the ceiling, hand over his temple in silent suffering. Gazel looked like he had just swallowed a live insect. We finalized the plan. I would send one of my personal attendants with 10 stellar gold coins, and in exchange, Elmesia would provide 1,000 gold coins. A fair and efficient trade. But then Elmesia leaned forward ever so slightly, her expression turning suggestive. You know, she said, voice lilting, I think someone would have stepped in to help even if you couldn't prepare the gold coins in time. I blinked. Oh, you mean the sort of coincidence where I'm visibly distressed about funds, and someone conveniently appears to offer aid, effectively making me indebted to them. Her smile widened warm, but unmistakably the smile of a seasoned ruler. You are correct. If you want someone to do your bidding, it is far easier to have them owe you a favor than to browbeat or intimidate them. And unfortunately, it works quite often. I see. I folded my arms, thinking aloud. So this interloper could have offered to accept a signed contract letting me pay later, even without the gold coins on hand. That would make it seem like Tempest is unreliable, while they are so gracious and trustworthy. My voice lowered, elegant but edged. And in doing so, they would bind Tempest to their kindness. A simple, clean, political trap. I exhaled softly, amused despite myself. Quite a devious scheme. Maybe someone from the Western Council is behind this, I continued thoughtfully. Elmasia's lips curled into a knowing smile. Oh, I wouldn't know. Thalian isn't part of the council, after all. Her eyes slid sideways directly toward a very stiff, very pale Molly. But maybe he would know something. Me. Being called out so abruptly made him jolt upright, but after a moment of frantic blinking, he managed to regain some semblance of calm. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. I have heard rumors, he whispered conspiratorially. Rumors of a kind of shadow committee that exerts de facto control over the council. Supposedly composed of members of the ruling class, the highest level leaders among the Western nations. I raised an eyebrow as he continued. But I wouldn't believe it for a moment, he added hastily, waving his hands. The council is made up of elected representatives. Meanwhile, royalty is hereditary. Their seats aren't in any danger, so they have little incentive to interfere in such a crude manner. So he was familiar with the merchant rumors, a whisper network about a clandestine cabal supposedly guiding Western policy from behind the scenes. It certainly sounded like conspiracy theory territory, and even Molly didn't put much stock in it. Still, the timing, the subtlety, the precision of the setup. It all smelled a little too deliberate to ignore. I leaned back gracefully, tapping a finger against my chin. Well, I said at last, a serene smile forming, let's wait and see, shall we? Whoever rushes in to help with our little monetary problem will tell us everything we need to know. A soft ripple of agreement passed around the table. The morning of day 6 arrived quietly, almost deceptively peaceful. By the time the sun fully crested the rooftops, I had already finished the most troublesome task. Sending one of my personal attendants to El Chan with the 10 stellar gold coins. The exchange was completed smoothly, 1,000 gold coins now safely stored away. That took care of one half of the issue. The other half, Gazel's shipment from Dworgen, would arrive by evening, carried through heavenly transport. Reliable as always. That would push our total comfortably over the required amount. Meaning, the monetary crisis was essentially resolved. Now came the interesting part. We just had to wait and see how the schemer behind this little drama would respond once they realized their trap had failed. Their reaction would tell us everything: motivation, intention, perhaps even identity. But that was a problem for later. For now, the feeling of tension coiled in the back of my mind finally relaxed, just enough for me to refocus on what mattered most at this moment. Enjoying the Founders' Festival, I settled comfortably into my seat in the viewing box, the morning breeze fluttering the sheer fabric of my gown. Ren stood behind me in her usual perfect maid posture, as dignified and unshakable as ever. Below us, the Colosseum was already a battlefield of noise. Crowds shouted, arguments broke out, people arguing and betting with each other over who would win. Naturally, Molly was the one handling the money. Because the surest way to win in gambling is to own the house. No matter who the crowd loved, the house always won. Still, I wasn't above participating myself. I had discreetly placed a bet on Gobta's victory. Just a small wager, only a few gold coins, nothing suspicious. Except that thanks to Masayuki's absurd popularity, the odds were completely ridiculous. Everyone was betting on Masayuki. So if Gobta won, I would win a massive amount. Like, embarrassingly massive. And was that cheating? And no, of course not. I mean, okay, fine, I did know a few inside details. Tiny ones. Not insider information. Just educated observation. Totally different. This is definitely fine, I whispered to myself, nodding primly. Ren behind me muttered under her breath. Quote, My lady, that is absolutely cheating. I pretended not to hear her. Because none of that mattered right now. I had a hobgoblin to cheer on. Soka's voice boomed with her usual infectious energy. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The first match of the quarter-final is here. Which of our two competitors will seize the right to enter the semifinals today? Will it be Lightspeed, Masayuki, or Gobta, the surprising dark horse pushing for a spot among the illustrious Big Four? Her excitement whipped the stadium into a frenzy. Soka kept going, casually hyping Gobta as if he were some hidden champion. Honestly, it was probably insurance so he wouldn't run away again. Cruel, but effective. Then, Diablo raised his hand. Instant silence. A few ladies in the crowd literally swooned. Some didn't even try to hide it. I banished the thought from my mind. Ready, and begin. At Sokka's cry, the arena exploded into cheers. Woo, let's do it, Gobta yelled, charging forward with all the enthusiasm of someone who still didn't fully understand how he got here. For a moment, I feared he was about to pull a classic Gobta, throw himself into Masayuki, get knocked out, and use that as a perfect excuse to quit the tournament. A very Gobta-esque plan. But I was wrong. Apparently the fishing pole I had dangled in front of him was more than enough to override his survival instincts. Gobta dashed straight at Masayuki, then suddenly dropped low into a baseball slide, scraping across the arena floor like a gremlin-shaped thunderbolt. FWIP. He slipped right past Masayuki and parked himself near the outer boundary. Eyes sharp, muscles tense. ... Well, as sharp and tense as Gobta could manage. Masayuki, meanwhile, didn't even flinch. He turned painfully slowly back toward Gobta with that same serene, distant idle smile plastered on his face. Hoa! Is handsomeness the key to strength after all? Gobta's tricky maneuvers were completely ignored as the dashing Masayuki demonstrates ultimate calm. Sokka's commentary stabbed right into Gobta's heart. Honestly, into mine too. Yeah, Masayuki was handsome, but this was just favoritism. Unfair commentary bias. Emotional damage. Gobta staggered slightly, clearly wounded by the verbal attack. Heh, heh heh, all part of the playbook. You're acting like nothing I can do will hit you, huh? I wanted to see just how far I could go with my own strength today, but I can't even touch you, huh? Then it's time to use this my new, ultimate power. Oh gods, there he goes again. I felt Ren stiffen behind me. He was about to do something stupid. Very stupid. And, of course, he hadn't practiced whatever this, ultimate power, was. Not even once. Not even by accident. I could already tell it was going to be a disaster. And unfortunately, there was no one here to stop him. Except maybe fate. Just as I was thinking that, Ciel's voice drifted into my mind, smooth, calm, and far too casual for what she was saying. Last night, I helped Gobta obtain a unique skill, Summon Demon Wolf. When combined with his extra skill Unify, he can merge with Ranga. I blinked. Once. Twice. Ciel, what did Masayuki do to you? Because this level of petty vengeance was absolutely her brand when she was feeling angry on my behalf or simply offended by Masayuki's accidental protagonist luck. I stifled a laugh behind my hand. My, Ciel, that's rather bold of you. He annoyed me, master. Her tone was completely serene. Of course. Meanwhile, down in the arena. Check this out. Transform. Oh no. The air warped around Gobta as if someone had turned on the special effects budget for just him. Shadows curled. Wind howled. A dark aura burst out like he was suddenly the final boss of someone else's story. Then, the air warped around him. Ranga appeared behind his back and then they unified, Ranga's body seeming to merge with Gobta's. To make a long story short, the results looked like a bipedal version of Ranga, and I'll admit it looked kinda cool. Hoa, sweet, what is that? So cool. Milam, bouncing in her seat next to me, clutched at the railing as her eyes sparkled. I giggled, she was so easily excitable. Look at that. Gobta has transformed into something far from himself. Sokka's voice cracked with excitement, barely able to contain her enthusiasm. Yes, Diablo said calmly, his tone a sharp contrast to Sokka's squeal. The ability to infuse your own body with the power of a summoned creature. A very rare skill, the power of a creature he summoned yesterday. And he's merging it with himself. Sokka practically squealed again. Amazing, we're witnessing something extraordinary here, folks. Haha, now it's my turn, Gobta shouted. It's been your turn, dude. Masayuki hasn't done anything yet, I murmured exasperatedly. Then Gobta disappeared. Well, not completely, my eyes could follow him with ease, but to everyone else, it looked like he had vanished into thin air. Gee, Gobta is gone, Sokka practically shrieked into the microphone, deliberately drumming up the tension. Where did he go? And then boom, a small explosion erupted just under the stands, right by the VIP boxes. The sound was deafening, sending a wave of air over the spectators. Smoke and sparks erupted, and the crowd collectively jumped back in alarm. A few gasps turned into frantic cheers as people tried to figure out what had just happened. Thus, I had a close-up view of Gobta, right after declaring it to be his turn, charging straight at Masayuki and then running right past him until he slammed headfirst into the wall. I knew he should have rehearsed that first. Even before he attempted it, I could see the disaster waiting to happen. Whoa, Gobta isn't getting back up. Is he alright? He wasn't. The impact had knocked him unconscious, and he had overshot the out-of-bounds line entirely. That idiot had zero control over the transformation. Everything worked beautifully until he absorbed Ranga's powers, but those powers treated him like a chew toy. To put it simply, he wanted to start running, then stop running, but his brain was still judging movement based on his original body dimensions. 1 second in Gobta's head was very different from the same second in Ranga's. Before he could even think to stop, his forehead met the wall with a sickening thunk. Even worse, as Sokka pointed out, Gobta showed no sign of getting back up. It wasn't actual physical damage, just the shock from the collision. What can I say? First, he unveils this super cool new monster, then he promptly proves himself a complete dolt. Very true to character. Quote. I was stunned into silence. The crowd was just as confused, trying to make sense of what had just occurred. I could hear one spectator tentatively offering an explanation based on the sparse evidence. Wait, did he throw him aside in midair? The arena was so quiet that the words echoed like a bizarre proclamation. Amazing, amazing, Masayuki, Hoa, that was awesome, I barely even saw it happen. This is just too crazy. The praise spread like wildfire across the Colosseum, as if the audience had collectively decided this was the definitive truth. Cheers erupted, heralding Masayuki's victory, before Sokka and Diablo could even process the scene themselves. Meanwhile, my neighbor was trembling with fury. Is this some kind of twisted joke? After looking all cool like that? I mean, what was that? After that radical transformation, this was the result. Gobta had sent Milam's expectations soaring, and then crashing spectacularly. Milam's frustration only intensified. Now, I think he did his very best. In his own way, I tried to soothe her. Rimuru, you know spoiling him isn't good for him. That's right, Ren chimed in, nodding firmly. You can't play favorites. Exactly, I'll whip him into shape. Rimuru, let me borrow Gobta for a while, I'll make him the most incredible fighter you've ever seen. Milam's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had clearly spotted a rare opportunity, and she simply had to take it. If I nodded approval here, it would be pure cruelty toward Gobta. But then an idea struck me. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you, I said, a playful glint in my eye. I'll accept your offer if you accept mine. How about that? All right, she replied, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Let's hear it. There's a set of ruins in Clayman's domain, I began, right near his manor. I don't want anyone poking around without permission, and I suspect they're packed with artifacts that could teach us more about the ancient past. I've been keeping them untouched so far. Milam nodded. I'd like to explore these ruins, I continued, but I wanted to get your permission first. Why are you asking me? Milam asked, confused. Because it's your domain now, doofus. Milam, who's the ruler of that domain right now? Frey whispered, cutting in before I could even say it. Oh, Milam shot upright in her seat. Oh, right, that's me, isn't it? Right, I knew that. Great, glad she remembered. So, I prompted. Of course it's fine, she said with a snap of her fingers. That was surprisingly easy. Maybe Milam just wanted to put the subject behind her. As long as I got her permission, anything was fine. Sorry, Gobta, but at least something useful would come out of this. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I squeezed a little benefit out of this mess, right? Besides, it might even help build him up a bit. All's well that ends well. But when you do this exploring, Rimuru, you'll take me along, right? Milam asked hopefully. That'll depend, I replied. I've actually reached out to an expert from the Free Guild on this. If they give the okay, you can come sure. Ooh, sounds like fun, she exclaimed, practically bouncing in her seat. Yeah, don't get your hopes up, I warned, smiling. It might turn out to be pretty boring. We continued chatting as we waited for the certified results, which only took a few minutes. Finally, Sokka and Diablo wrapped up their discussion. The judgment is in, and while I'm concerned for the still unconscious Gobta, the winner is. Sokka began. Quote. Wait, Masayuki raised his hand toward her. Sokka, sensing he had something to say, handed him a spare microphone. I think I lost, actually, he admitted. But, Sir Masayuki, Soka stammered, bewildered, it looks very much like Gobta took himself out of the match. Perhaps. But you see, I couldn't keep up with that attack at all. I don't have the experience needed to challenge a demon lord just yet, Masayuki spoke slowly. Then, without another word, Masayuki turned and walked out of the arena, never glancing back. Gobta lay sprawled on the ground, completely out of it. Then, out of nowhere, Masayuki declared he had lost. The crowd froze, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Quote. Is it because he can't drum up the will to face the demon lord? No, you saw that throw. It was masterful. He said he couldn't keep up with that attack. Is he hurt? There's a small cut on his cheek. What? He managed to land a blow on Sir Masayuki. The murmuring intensified, opinions and speculation bouncing around. Wait, I've got it. A man suddenly shouted. Sir Masayuki just gave the demon lord a reprieve. What do you mean? The demon lord declared he wants to be friendly with humans. You all know that, right? Of course. Yeah, so that's why, the man continued smugly, what Masayuki did just now was give a warning to Rimuru. It sounded oddly convincing, much to my irritation. No wonder the people around him started nodding in agreement. I see, and that reminds me, Sir Masayuki didn't unsheath his sword this time, either, did he? Well spotted. You're right, that's his way of telling us he could win this tournament anytime he wanted to. Right, and if the demon lord pulls any false moves, he's not gonna take that sitting down. That's what he's saying, probably. Of course, if they ever did fight, I bet he'd stop before landing a killing blow. So he's willing to lose some face just to bring the message across. What a wonderful young man he is. That's the Sir Masayuki I know. He's so cool. Soon, everyone was caught up, interpreting his actions in increasingly grandiose ways. Before long, the entire crowd was singing Masayuki's praises like a church choir. Masayuki. What the hell? Was this a religion now or something? I felt like I was getting a glimpse of something terrifying. Either way, poor boy survived the tournament, but I bet he was already racking his brain over how to handle Bavix later. There was no way his friends would let him weasel out of that rematch. Maybe I'd offer him a little sympathy. I could even help prop him up as a hero. It'd make a great advertisement for the Labyrinth Challenge. Soe. I contacted Soe through thought communication. Make contact with Masayuki. Tell him I want to meet with him. Yes, my lady, he replied coolly. Keep it courteous. Invite him after today's tournament. Understood, my lady. As a fellow native of Japan, I want to speak with him anyway. I'll ask Hakuro to prepare some sushi. While I was thinking about Masayuki, Gobta finally started to regain consciousness. After some deliberation, Soka and Diablo decided to accept Masayuki's request. Today's been a cavalcade of unexpected events, but with Masayuki's withdrawal, Gobta is the winner. The crowd was less than satisfied with that outcome, but well, lucky for me, I'm rich. I just need to remember to collect my winnings from Molly later. To be continued.